Okay, I think we are finally live now. 1 second. Double check. Okay, we are live. Awesome. And I'm on the wrong thing. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Happy Saturday, everybody. Happy Earth Day, all of that good stuff. You had my drawings here. I am not prepared, as y'all can see. I was having a morning, so usually I have the charts like up and ready. But I did take a look at some things. I just got a little distracted. So anyway, y'all know how that goes. So let's take a look at some of our regular stuff. Today should actually be kind of short because we really haven't been doing a whole lot. This is the most sideways action we have had probably in a few years. So looking at the VIX, you see the VIX is still red on all time frames. It has rejected at this $16 level. So that's going to be my next strong support here on the month. And then if it can continue, we may even see it go down to about 15. This would coincide with some, green in the markets, but that's what we've been seeing. And we know that VIX is in an overall downtrend. Why is this that's on the wrong one? We know it's in an overall downtrend. So you can still see that here. An obvious head, shoulder that has played out. But we are at the bottom of this little wedge that we've been doing. We've been kind of wedging down, as you can see. So interesting to see what happens. The last time it touched the bottom of that wedge, it kind of went back up. So I want to see if this continues. Like I said, we still do have some magnitude where it can go down to about 15, or to see if it rejects here and reverses, and we may see some red in the markets. And looking at the dollar looks a little similar to the VIX. It generally runs opposite of the markets, and so it's been red, and also in the downtrend and been wedging to the downside. So you see that it's had a pretty strong support here about this 101.60. So that's going to be my support, and then it can continue down here until about 100. These are really like the same levels that I gave last week. And you can see that here even on the daily. When we did homework last week, we were here. This is where we had closed, and we didn't do anything. We stayed in this box right here. So it's just, are we going to break out of this box, and which way? And so far, the way it's set up, it looks like it's breaking to the downside. So I have to see what that does here. Looking at the Dow. So the Dow is still, again, in the exact same place that it really was last week. As you can see, on the week, we have an inside week, which basically means nothing but consolidation, which is exactly what it did. So we've just been in this box right here. If you zoom out, you see this inverted head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder. So it's valid above this 332-ish. But we're just right back in this chop area that we were in way back in the beginning of the year and the end of last year. So it's just really still in this same chop area. It's not doing a whole lot of anything. Maybe earnings next week will make us move or actually do something. Speaking of that, I usually start off, that's how y'all know I'm off. I usually start off talking about the economic data. The only thing we have this week is on Thursday we have some data dropping, and then Friday we also have data. I will post the economic calendar in the Discord so that y'all can look at it. But Thursday and Friday are probably going to be the most important days in terms of data. But we do know that lately data has not done anything. So, but we're still aware of it. Also, we know that we have big earnings week next week. We have a lot of the major players are reporting. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, they're all reporting next week. So that may be what also we're waiting for. With the sideways action, y'all know that sideways action usually leads to explosive moves. Right now, the way it's set up is it is set up here with the Dow for it to move up according to the pattern that we see here on the daily. So keep an eye on the Dow. You know that it has triggered the monthly to the upside. So the target for that will be about 344. That's the magnitude there. And looking at the NASDAQ with tech is kind of just as similar as week. We've had basically a strong move up and it's basing now. So we're basing to see which way we're going to move. The way it looks here on the daily is it almost looks like a double top here. But then basically it's really just trading in a range. And again, it's probably waiting on Microsoft's and Google, some of these big players, to report their earnings for it to decide which range is going to break out of. So, I mean, the way we have it on this day right here, if it breaks to the upside, it's just still going to be inside of this nasty range. So I would say I wouldn't really touch it unless it breaks above that 13,200 or really below this 12,838. This is the box that it's been trading in. So if you're not a range trader, then I would stay out of NASDAQ. So IWM, kind of the same thing. You're going to see this that's the similarity that we're having with all of these charts. We've been range trading. We're stuck in a box. There are some stocks that are doing breakouts, but for the most part, a lot of things are trading within a range. IWM has been stuck in this nasty box for months. This is the monthly over here, and you can see that it's just really been stuck. So it can't seem to break above really this 188, and it won't break below about 170. But really 176 has been a strong support for it. You've seen this sitting around this level right here on the daily. You see that 176 right here. It's been a strong support that it's just been kind of holding at. And so it's really getting tight. It needs to really break above 180. I would say 181 because the gap fill here is this 181. It's been kind of like slowly melting up towards it, but it's still range trading and not really getting there. So that's going to still be my first target if it can break out of this range. And then, of course, the 200 here at 183. But yeah, it hasn't been doing a whole lot. So looking at Apple. So Apple, we were talking about last week that seasonality is that Apple is green for the most part up through like the third week of April, drops a little bit, runs through May, which is their next earnings, and then drops some more, and then they have this big event in June. So keeping that in mind, if you know that Apple is going to continue or at least hold while they are, waiting for this event, you know that the overall markets are going to have a hard time falling, which may just have us stay in this range that we've been in. So it ended as a doji on the week, so it's no clear signal of who is in control here. Even on the day, we had this box that we were trading in, sort of washed below it, took these people out, and then it just ended on the doji. So now looking to see what Apple's going to do. But we know that we're well above our 200. We know that it's being supported by these EMAs here. So for the most part, we know that we're still in buy the dip mode with Apple. For the most part, it's supported by the 8 and then by the 20. So my next support here is going to be this 163. If it has more bearish activity, for instance, if we do a 2 up, 2 down on the week. So my first support would of course be this 20, that 163, and then it's going to be that 160 if it does that and we do that, hit our Strat target. So 160 would be the next one. But we know time frame continuity for the most part is green, except we did end kind of red on the week, so it can flip if it breaks below this 164.28. It will flip the month green, so it's kind of hovering right there. We still have this 171 target to hit, so that would be my next target to the upside, is that 171-ish. Microsoft. So Microsoft has earnings on Wednesday, and as you can see, we've just been kind of waiting for it. It's huge inverted head and shoulders here on the weekly, and so we're kind of still in this shoulder area. This shoulder area is really valid. I mean, it can really come all the way down here. Like, it can drop a lot and still bounce or reject here at this 200 and move back up and still be considered a shoulder over here. This entire shoulder area runs from here, it's 247, to about where it's at, 290. It's big, but you know, as you can see, the reason for that is because of this really strong move that it had here. So it's not quite a PMG on the week, but it definitely could still come all the way down and then recover. I believe it did that the last time, the last earnings. It dropped pre-market and then completely recovered. So keep that in mind, that Microsoft could definitely still do that, but still be considered in buy the dip mode. And if you see this range, you know, really for me to be completely bearish, it would need to break below that 247. Yeah, 246 area. So, but when you look at it on the daily, also shorter term, it does look like it double topped here, down, come down some. I don't necessarily think it would outside month. It would probably have to sell off a lot, really strong. We'd have to see the VIX like boost up, like that type of thing. That's what you would look for to see if it would continue like that. But for the most part, it looks like it's being supported here and then here on the 20. But if it does break that range, then these will probably start turning down and we can look for it to come down. I don't think we have any gaps on the day, no. But yeah, so larger, you know, longer term, we see this inverted head and shoulders, this big one. Shorter term, we see this double top here, but we're trading in a box, so it could definitely come back, test it again, and actually push through and come on up to this 296. That's also the next gap fill on Microsoft. So of course, those both move the Qs, so it's going to look basically the same way. You can see the shoulder here, head, shoulder. So that's going to be valid for me to about 287. As long as it stays above there, this inverted head and shoulders should still play out, and we should still kind of be bullish. First strong support is going to be this 300 though, because that's the 200 on the weekly. But you know, notice on the week all of the EMAs are pointing up and it's finding support, and it's, you know, we had a strong move and a base. It looks just like Microsoft. So we would need a lot of movement to outside month, and a double outside month would be kind of a lot. So yeah, consequently, if it decides to push to the upside, it can 3-2 up on the month and come up to this 334. So, but it would need to break this box that it's been trading at. This box is between 321 and about 311. So another, again, a $10 box. Looks just like Microsoft. And shorter term, we do have a somewhat of a double top. Shoot, it's almost a triple top, really. Almost a triple top here. but still trading in this range. So it could still, you know, pop past. Yeah, this wedge it broke out of this wedge, but this didn't draw it. It could still pop past, and let's see. Oh, see, I had it drawn. I just had it hidden. If it does, 323, and then that 334 that I was showing y'all. I believe there's a gap here. This tiny. We're not gonna really count that. All right, go back. All right, so yeah, those look the same. And then our SPY. Let's hide all of this. So looking at SPY again, like look at this. It's just a mess. It's a mess. Even when you look at it on the weekly. When we talk about trading ranges, this has been doing this. So, I mean, think about it like that. That's exactly, if you've been trying to trade this, you've been trading this, which is just ranges, and it's still getting tight. But it tried to break out and it kind of rejected. So there's nobody in control here when we look at it on the weekly. There is a possible setup though, because if it does 2 up, 2 down, then there's a PMG here on the week. And you'll find that with some of your favorite stocks is you'll find this PMG. And if it reverses, there are a lot of stops to take out, and it can definitely really move. The last time it did that was here, and you see what happened. Took them out, basically. And this week right here, and then recovered. So it's definitely possible that it can do that. There's not like, well, it's a little bit of a inverted head and shoulders because we do have a lower low here. So we do have a head, and then the shoulder would still be valid above this 380. So 380 to about 316 is still that range that we're trading in. If we do have any upside, any more upside, we are still in force on the month. So we can still make it up to about 418. And then remember, we have this gap over here at about 421 that we might want to get to. So we're still looking like we're trying to slowly creep towards that gap. When you look at them in the day, you do see this inverted head and shoulders. You get a shoulder, head, shoulder. So that'll really be valid for me above 406. Now, one thing I want to point out is that last week we were looking to see if SPY would outside week, and it didn't. It kept getting bought right at that 50% level, which we know that that's what happens. Usually for outside week, we're looking to see if it breaks below and holds that below that 50% level. But we know that as other traders who trade Fibonacci levels, 50% is definitely a buy level. So they buy it there. So if they didn't buy it there and it continued to sell off, then we would expect it to get to 406. Otherwise, they could buy it there, and that could be the reversal or the dip, because you know we're in buy the dip mode. That would be the dip, and they would buy it there. And you saw they kept doing it. So what I'm saying is, with the outside week, sometimes if it doesn't finish that week or whatever time frame you're on, it'll finish the next time frame. So what we can look for is if SPY can break below this 410.53, we can look to see if it can hit this 406, which it was trying to do last week. So it may finish and hit that 406 this week. So that would be my first strong support, is that 406. And then, of course, the 200 is going to be 400. And then this gap at 396 is also a target. Then if it PMGs, then you know it can really take out all of these targets. Okay, and then that will bring us back to this 380. That would actually trigger the outside month. And I'm sure that we would probably find support at 380 if we were to make it all the way back there. And then, of course, I'm sure, you know, I would be talking about this before then. But Also key to note is that, we've also been talking about this wedge here on the daily that it's been doing. I want to note that it did break above, broke back below, and now it closed right there. So although we do have this PMG and I've given those downside targets, if we are to break above and hold above this wedge, then we can count this as a decent breakout to the upside, and we can target that 418 in that gap that I was telling you about. Consequently, I want to really zoom in here and show a shorter term head and shoulders. So see this shoulder, see this head. We are now in the shoulder area. So if we are bearish and we're going to look to trigger this 410.53 and actually break below it and go for the PMG, I would count this head and shoulders as long as really we stay below about 415. We need to stay below 415 and we'll still be in that shoulder area. But we need to break that 410.50 to really see more downside and at least start coming down towards this 200. And then maybe even take out some more targets. Otherwise, we're looking for the break above 413, well 415, because remember that's the shoulder area for this head and shoulders. If we break and hold above 415, like I was saying, we will have broken out of this wedge, and then we can target our upside target. So that is SPY. Taking a look at XLE. And for anyone watching, if y'all have anything y'all want me to look at, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Thank you y'all for being here. Okay, so XLE also, well, it's been more bearish versus sideways, but essentially, if you think about it, we're still stuck in this range. It's about a $20 range from about 92 to about 72 is where it's been trading at, but essentially still holding and making higher lows. So watching energy to see how it does. Here you see that it's about to trigger the 50% to the downside on the month. So if it does, then we will look for that under 81.52, and then we're going to look for it to target about 75.41. And yeah, so bearish on energy right now. And then we know that we have gaps to the downside that we can target. So this 75.55 is a little below that 200. So of course my first strong support is going to be that 50% level, that 81.52, because that's an area that people may actually buy. But we also know that we still have gaps here on the day and the week that we might need to fill because there are unfulfilled orders. So there's no really actionable signal here on the weekly, but we do have a gap to target here at this 83. So looking to see it fill that gap. We could use that 2 up, 2 down, and then target that gap. Then near the 200 at this 82.53. But when you look at it on the daily, you see, again, inverted head and shoulders. So this could still fill the gap or even come down to this 200, reject here, and still be valid. So really, unless it breaks below the 200, I would still stay bullish on energy for the most part, but bearish on it for this month. We do have the full time frame continuity that is red for the most part right now. So that could support, the correction all the way to the 200, because what happened is we flushed below, popped above, but left this area that's still needs to be digested. So it can come bounce down here, maybe digest kind of like how it's done right here, and then still pop. Otherwise, if it breaks below there and we keep this time frame continuity that's red, then we have some more room to go, and we can do that outside month. And then if it really, because technically since November it's made lower highs on the monthly. If it does do an outside month, it can 3-2 and see some more downside. But remember that we knew that it's still an inside year, and we knew it would do that after this huge move last year. So it's one of those range type of things. We don't think that it's going to fall and take away all of its gains, but it's mostly going to stay inside this year. If it does find some bullish activity, though, there is still room for it to go to the upside. That broadening formation on the yearly is still there, so it can still definitely boom. May not, it probably won't this year. It'd be nice if it just has a inside year and just still consolidates and then makes a move next year, because we like those type of setups. So what I've decided to do is, since I mostly go through sectors, I go through sectors and then I'll do my favorite stock from that sector. So of course it's going to be ZOM, and ZOM looks very similar to XLE, except it has triggered the monthly to the upside, and we have full time frame continuity to the upside. So if we are to continue, this 120 is the area that I would target. Did an outside week, so it's not really an actionable signal. I mean, it could 3-2 if the bulls continue, but that would just be a continuation. And then of course you see it's in this shoulder area up here. So we had our head and then the shoulder area, and that could really, again, it could fill the gap and still be valid. It just be back in this chop area, but the gap fill is going to be about 110 if it decides to come down there, and that's going to be my bottom of my shoulder area, and then it could still come also down to this 200. So just giving you those levels. Okay, I see Tesla. Look at Tesla real quick. So we know Tesla just had their earnings, and we don't have really any actionable signals here. Let me look at this on the 2 week. Nope, there's no actionable signals, but it is a 2-2 continuation to the downside on the month. As long as it holds under this 164.36, it actually has more room to the downside. It can go, 100 is very far, but we do know that Tesla can actually do that. It definitely could. We would have to be supremely bearish in the markets for that to happen, but on the week, if you look at it here, I see two things. This could be an inverted head and shoulders. It's sitting at the bottom of the shoulder, so it would need to reject here and move back up from here for me, or you can call it a cup of handle. But also this could be a big H, and that H, if it continues, would coincide with it continuing down on the monthly. Got a big old M here. So if anything, if it does, it would need to break back above 189 to be back bullish, which is way up here. When you look at it on the day, it gapped down. So that would be my first target, would be this gap, that 177.84. So if it did like a 2-1-2 up or something like that, and then decided to come up to fill that gap, that 177 would be my first upside target. But we know, Tesla can take a while to fill its gaps. We got this gap down here at 146 from January that it hadn't filled yet. Even with that drop, it still hasn't filled it. So that would be my first downside target if it decide, because we know we'd had this 2 down, we had our resting bar. So either we can push up, the bulls can take control and we can go for this gap, or we can push down and go for this gap here. My first strong support is probably going to be here, like the Strat target. Yeah, 155. And then that gap fill, 146. Yep. And then, yeah, there are more gaps. No, it's not really a gap. There's a small one right there, 122. That doesn't really count right there. So, but we see that it's wedging to the downside. Earnings didn't help it. So if it has any pops, it's really on this daily looking, or even on the weekly, in short the rip mode. So we know that it rips. You have that upside, and I would probably short it if it got up here. That's the only gaps to the upside. Yep. So that's Tesla. You're welcome, Crystal. Felicia asked for Amazon. Okay, so Amazon has earnings on Thursday. And so we see here that we have we triggered the month to the upside and held above. And so we do have magnitude. 114 is going to be the upside magnitude for me for there. We have full time frame continuity to the upside. However, we are sitting right at rejection points on both the week and the day. So we're at the 200 on the week and on the daily, and we've rejected from there. Not to say we can't still go, but that is the first rejection point. So that's going to be my first resistance is this 107.27 where we rejected from. It's also funny that it's that same rejection point in the monthly. That lets me know that this is going to be a strong resistance that it needs to break through. And then if it can, it's going to 109.76, and then that 114 is going to be my target. You know how things act at their 200, right? So let's look at the last time it hit it, which was here, and it rejected. It's actually a similar candle. Oh, I'm going to move this over a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. Similar candle, rejection, and then it died. Like it literally gapped down after that. Not to say that it will repeat. Price does have memory, but we do know that this is the last time it hit the 200 like that, and it rejected. It died hard. And then it really hasn't been there since, when is this? August of last year, where it barely made it above and then fell. So we are at a critical point with Amazon. Those earnings could definitely help it. As you can see, even though it has bullish here. So basically, yeah, that would be my first resistance. And then we know it can get to that. If it can go back to that 114. It's a little tiny gap here on the day too. Oh yeah, that's that 114. So that would be my first target to the upside. There are a couple more gaps, tiny gaps here, but you know, if it had strong earnings and they wanted to really push, then that's what we would target. This 125. There's even a bigger gap up here at 134 where it gapped down. Was this earnings? This wasn't earnings. I'm not sure why this gapped down like that there, but yeah. So yeah, Amazon, and then if it can break out of this wedge, then you know it may actually have some upside. So that is Amazon. All right, so chips. So chips have been moving, and then now are having their corrective activity. So I am still pretty much bearish on chips. Kiki has been hollering chips. Will be bearish on chips for about 2 weeks now, and it's definitely been paying out, even with the pops and things like that. So let me double check something real quick, y'all. Hold on. Okay, so trigger to the downside on the week. There is no actionable signal here, or on the day. I think, nope, not even on the 2 week. By the way, we do have a new 2-week bar starting next on Monday. Lower highs, so looking to see more continuation to the downside. If anything, my next target, yes, so 11 there, and I think it was TSM that has a really big gap. Yeah, a couple of big gaps to fill. So this is a nice shooter, could possibly 3-2 down on the week. Is it 2-week too? No, just the weekly. So yeah, it would be a 3-2 down on the week. It's broken below its 200, and out of this wedge that it was doing here, and then we have some pretty big gaps to fill to the downside. So watch your chips, because they may be actually dying now. See, same with AMD. AMD is kind of stuck in this mother bar right here though, and it's just kind of slowly melting down. So my first real support, if you're going to trade this range, is going to be this 83.46, which is the 200 on the daily. But yeah, you can see it's just like slowly been melting down. I have its pops and then falls. So it looks like it's breaking out of this base area right here. So if it can break this 88 that it's rejected from several times, then it can start melting down there. So China, again, is like kind of like the chips, has been super bearish. It's rejected this 200 here, and so it does still have room to the downside to move. KWeb doesn't really have any actionable signals, but basically you can see that it's bearish. It has found support around this 27.81 area, so if it can break below that, then I'm looking for more downside to about $20. And you can see like where we are in this wedge, although there is an inverted head and shoulders here. So again, that's why this 27.80 is kind of a strong support. If it bounces from there, then it may be able to recover. Otherwise, then it may start moving its way on down. So before I look at BABA, I wanted to show PDD really quickly and show y'all that it is about to trigger on the quarter. So keep PDD on your watch list for more downside, especially if there's plenty of weakness in China. It's kind of been basing for the last few days, but you do have also an inside week here. So if it can 212 down, it is a continuation. It's not a reversal, but you know that it will still be under the quarter, and you can ride this for a little while, ways to the downside. So, and it's broken below its 200. All the EMAs are pointing down. You can really use these as resistance. So it's got a hammer on the day here. Let that go in force, play it to the upside, possibly even to this 20 or even to this 200, and then that rejection for it to come back up down. So a couple different ways you can play China, but still keep China on your watch list, because it, I told you I was going to be watching it all year. I was watching it to the upside, but now it's moving to the downside. So yeah. BABA, we were talking about looking for it to fill this gap. It finally did. So now, it's had several red days, trying to see what it's actually going to do. No actionable signal here though, but unless it does like a 2 down, 2 up. It's not a hammer though, so I wouldn't really expect that. But yeah, we are kind of far away from the EMA, so maybe we're going to come back up here and test them. And then, after we have strong moves, we base also. So now that it's finished filling this gap, it may want to base here like it did over here before it does anything else. So AI is another one we have been watching, because it found a lot of strength this is still on the quarter. It is supposed to be on the month. Last quarter, but then it lost all of it. So we're still watching AI though, because that this is a long-term play. But it looks like it's breaking out of this base area to the downside. So this is kind of new for me to watch, but I'm watching it mostly because, AI is usually in everybody's mouths lately. So just want to see what it does or how this thing moves, and it's pretty cheap. So Airbnb, we were talking about this last week, and we talked about how it triggered to the downside on the monthly. It didn't quite hit the target, but it came back in, and then we had this inside week. So it broke above and then came right back below. So now we have this like unfulfilled area right here where it's just like these people couldn't get filled. It's a little funny because if you think about it, we closed here and then it gapped up, right? So if you had orders right here, even though it gapped up and then came over here and gapped back down, you still didn't get filled. So this is just an area, it kind of needs to work out. So I want to see what Airbnb does. And then because we are sitting right here at this 200, I'm still watching it to see if, it break back above. It might break above and find some support here. And while it's working this area out, find the support and then move to the upside. Or it may not. And then because it gapped down, it may correct and do an H or whatever. But either way, I'm still watching it to see what it's doing here. This is a doji, so again, it's nobody in control, but there is a possible rev strat. If it does break below this 112 support, it could rev strat to the downside 107. So, and maybe actually hit this monthly target. So we were watching CAT because CAT also is triggering the quarter to the downside, but it came back in. So even though it has done that, it still could go because this is a quarterly thing. And then the same thing. Oop, I'm on the wrong one. Keep forgetting I'm not on there. The same thing with the monthly, 3-2 down. But again, this is a long range, so it may take some time, which is why we did this base. We dropped, we based, so it may be time for CAT to go. We do have a possible rev strat here on the week. Y'all know I like that because again, you target the previous candle, even though it's right there. But that would be my first target is this 209 for CAT, which would also be like this H on the daily. But keep in mind, we've had like 4 red days, even though they were like doji days, bulls fighting. But it's fighting to stay, it's fighting right around this 200. So if we do rev strat and move to the downside, we'll be below our 200. So that's a nice, we know that we have full time frame continuity, and then we have this gap to the downside at 199.50 that we can at least target just about halfway through this mother bar. Honestly though, if you fib this move right here, it's about halfway. I'm doing this by my eyes. Let me just do it. $206. So I think that's a strong area to watch for CAT. Is that 206 area? Where is that here? So it's right around there. And if it can break that, then I would definitely target that gap. And then I would watch it for continuation to the downside for, that quarter. And you can see on the daily, we do have a shoulder head. And we're kind of in this shoulder area right here. So looking for more downside on CAT. Disney, I am still thinking that Disney is going to move. Even though it didn't really do a whole lot with Netflix earnings, it's still in this shoulder area. So if you look here on the day, the shoulder area is really supported right around 97.60. But it can't break above like really 101. So earnings might do that. It may continue to trade sideways while it does that. But if it does, then we know it will trigger the monthly to the upside if it can break that area. And then we can target 117. That's the monthly target, but my first target would be this 200 on a day. And then the one, yep. Not really action. I mean, you could 322 reversal, but that's just a doji, so yeah. 101 is really the strong resistance. If it can get above there, you can play it to the upside. It's 102. The 200, 104. That's right, strat target, yep. So watch Disney. Their earnings is on May 10th. So it's got some time. It may still shoulder from there. But if it does do a run up before earnings, then you might want to catch that. Remember we talked about that last week. Their last earnings they did when it was in this area right here. It bust out and ran up until earnings. So watch Disney. Dash we were also watching. And it's I'm actually trying to remember why we were watching this. Oh, possible outside mode. But it looks like it rejected there. So it's holding at this outside mount. So you need to see where it's going to go. It's wedging, so we want to watch to see if this breaks out of this wedge. Although on this day here, I do have this head and shoulders. But we're in the shoulder area, so it needs to either break above 62. And we can target this upside, or it needs to break below this 58. That's the box that it's in. Really not sure. I probably didn't mean to have a dash on here. And I think it was Robin, and I'm not sure if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, y'all, who brought Crocs to our attention last week. But if you took this, congratulations. I honestly, I had it on the homework list and I forgot to look at it. But I mean, look how beautiful this was. So we talked about it here. Yeah, right here. And we had said that it had triggered the monthly to the upside, and that was our target. And this, I mean, this thing took off. Look what it did on the week. Look what it did. Like, it was just straight 222 continuations. So it looks good. One thing I wanted to point out was that it also has triggered the yearly to the upside. Not sure if we saw that last week, but we had a 2 down and we've triggered the 2 up. So as long as it stays above this 136.65, it has more magnitude. So you'll look at this and say, oh my God, it's gone. It can still go some more. 184.18 is the magnitude, but that is the yearly magnitude. So keep in mind we are, 4 months into the year. It could take that 8 months to get up there, but that would be the total magnitude there. So if I were to advise anyone to play this, I would wait for a correction, some corrective activity, and then get in. But you can kind of see here, it's just been moving. His first monthly magnitude, so the next one would be 174 before it got to the yearly magnitude. So I would really wait for it to possibly correct down to this 8, maybe even this 20. But watch it. I mean, you see it's based for weeks, and it broke out. So, it still has magnitude. All right, I'm going to check the Discord really quickly for any questions. 1 second, y'all. Oh, that was Jamal that had did Crocs. By the way, I'm looking at his message from last week. He said, oh, it has earnings coming up as well, so keep that in mind with Crocs. Let me check this chat. I see Kayla laughing at me because of earlier with them kids. That's it. All right, so Kiki, did you have anything that you wanted to say or show the people today? Otherwise, I can wrap it up. Uh-oh, wait, hold on. My thing ain't up. Mic check. Okay, now I can't hear Kiki. Hold on, y'all. I see you unmuted, but for some reason I cannot hear. Hold on, sis. I may need to change my settings. It's probably me, but I definitely see you talking. I just can't hear for some reason. Can y'all hear her on YouTube? Is it just me? Anybody? I'm not quite sure. Sis, I'm not sure what's going on here. Hold on, let me look at one other thing. Nope, that's connected. Yeah, I'm not sure why I can't hear you, sis. Maybe type and tell me what you want me to look at or what you were going to say. I be having the most problems. And I'm live this time, so I can't even edit this part out. Alright, I'm checking the chat, y'all. Bear with me. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. We will work on that on the back end so that it doesn't happen again. Might have to test it out. But I'll go ahead and go since no other questions and we can't get Kiki on. But I'm sure she will post whatever if she's she will post it in the Discord what she's looking at with charts and stuff like that. So you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe out here. We'll see you. Oh yeah, she said she'll definitely post. We will see you guys next week. Bye everyone.